right, welcome back, and we have our speakers ready. I'm so excited to meet my Taylor & Francis team members. So the very first, I have Catherine Cliff. Catherine, you're welcome. I also have Koromoto Power Fabris, Dr. Madhurima Kahali. You're all nice, you're people, you're welcome. You're welcome to the morning session. I want to open up the room for you. Taylor & Francis is one of the world leading publishers, and you can really appreciate that they're committed to higher education, publishing the whole innovative knowledge that you can publish with higher education. I want to give the room to all of these speakers to kindly introduce themselves slightly and take us into the conversation on navigating medical and healthcare scholarly communication, ensuring integrity, transparency, and accessibility of research. Taylor & Francis, there you go.
Hi, hello everyone. Thank you, Dr. Darko, for this opportunity to speak. Give me a second to just share my screen with everyone here. Okay, great. I hope you're able to see the screen. I'll just put it on slideshow.
Absolutely.
Great. Okay, so good morning, everyone. I would like to express my sincerest gratitude to the AAU for this incredible opportunity to connect with researchers and academics across Africa. At Taylor & Francis, partnerships are at the heart of what we do, and we are truly honored to be a part of this event today. Our partnership with AAU began in 2022, and through this association, we've been able to reach thousands of researchers across the continent. And I think there's no looking back for us in this partnership, and we're only looking at the way forward. So before we begin our presentations, I would like to thank and congratulate Professor Olusola, Secretary General, Ms. Nodumo, Mr. Ransford, and the AAU for their invaluable contributions to advancing the quality and relevance of higher education in Africa, and also for their dedication to supporting the continent's development. I'm Madhurima, the head of marketing at Taylor & Francis, responsible for open research and researcher engagement. If I introduce myself, I have over a decade of experience in the publishing industry and a background as a researcher. Myself, I do feel a deep sense of connection with many of you in the audience today. Our session today will focus on publishing in medicine and healthcare, with an emphasis on publishing ethics and research integrity. In an age of information overload, trustworthy, impactful research is of utmost importance, and this will be the core theme of our session today. The session is structured into 3 parts. I'll start by discussing some of the work that we've been doing with researcher communities in Africa. We've seen remarkable publications across subject areas from the region. Catherine Cliff will then expand on the topic, highlighting impactful contributions from Africa and also taking you through our medicine portfolio of journals. Finally, Dr. Koro will lead the last part of our session, focusing on research integrity and publishing ethics, an area of utmost priority to Taylor & Francis and, of course, researchers in general. So with that introduction, let's dive right into the presentations today. So a bit of an introduction about Taylor & Francis. We are a very old company, about 200 years old. We are a leading publisher of research across STEM and HSS disciplines. You can see below some of the imprints that we publish. Taylor & Francis has been partnering with institutions and societies in Africa for more than 15 years with the aim of supporting and promoting African scholarship worldwide. We are proud to be the only international commercial publisher which has an editorial team on the ground in South Africa. Our ethos is to publish in partnership, working with local leaders to combine the advantages of international reach with the embeddedness in local networks. TNF offers a range of content platforms to readers for knowledge. They are built around author and researcher needs with the aim of facilitating discovery and allowing users to access relevant research and information quickly and easily wherever they're located. Along with journals, there are archives complementing current content in libraries and allowing researchers to explore centuries of academic excellence across 32 key subject disciplines. You can see here the vast amount of content that we offer to researchers, starting from journals to books, books in various formats, prints and ebooks. So we are also a leading OA publisher. Now, open access makes published academic research freely and permanently available, so anyone, anywhere can read and build upon this research. At TNF, we champion researcher choice with a variety of open access publishing options to meet the unique needs of every author. We have been partnering with institutions and societies in Africa for over 15 years with the aim of supporting and promoting African scholarship worldwide. Our journal portfolio includes about 70 journals from the African continent, spanning STEM and humanities subject areas. The majority of our titles are covered by various indexes like Web of Science and Scopus. We have three major co-publishing partnerships with the UNISA Press, NISC, and MedFarm, and the majority of our African journals are also published in partnership with African societies as well as institutions. We have several consortia partnerships, including some key partnerships in South Africa, Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, and many others. Now, beyond journal publishing, we have collaborated with and advised both National Research Foundation and the Department of Higher Education on matters related to research and publishing. Through regular training workshops and seminars, we support a community of 1 million plus researchers throughout the region. Our website saw 7 million plus users from Africa this year. In addition, we do participate in key development initiatives such as Research for Life, AJOL, and AuthorAid. Now, all of these initiatives reflect on the numbers shown in this slide. So as you can see, we have published over 20,000 chapters in African studies. There are over 1,200 books by African authors. There are more than 17,000 articles published from Africa between 2020 to 2024. Now, Julie Ridd, who is from our partner institute, UNISA, says it is high time more was done to amplify voices from the Global South. And this partnership that they have with TNF forms part of the mission. So at TNF, we are doing our bit for the last 15 years to help drive African scholarship globally. We work with researchers, institutes, and societies in doing so. From making sure that your content is discoverable, indexed, and relevant to aiding equity in access through the many open access solutions we offer. Our post-publication services make sure that your content reaches the widest audience possible, including not just academics, but other professionals, policymakers, and lay audiences. Now, between 2022 to 2024, we have conducted over 100 webinars and training sessions across Africa. We partnered with institutes and highly acclaimed societies like yours. And I'm very proud to showcase the quotation that was sent to us by Professor Secretary General of Association of African Universities. So we've partnered with several institutes, including AAU, Addis Ababa University, several universities in South Africa, Uganda, Tanzania, and so many others. We saw huge participation from countries like Ghana, Nigeria, Ethiopia, South Africa, and had audiences from over 10 countries across Africa. Over here, you can see highlighted some of the key topics that we've been talking about. So our trainings focused on good publishing practices, publishing ethics, books and journal article, publishing in trending areas like genomics, engineering, agriculture, and many others. We have also carefully incorporated feedback from the attendees to create training and content that is more relevant for researchers in these regions. As a company, we are aligned to the mission's TISA 2024, to support which we have put in accelerated efforts on growing our STEM content across Africa. We are working with researchers and institutes across Africa and currently have over 100 ongoing book projects in STEM. Our conversations with the research community helped us identify your focus on the fourth industrial revolution, to support which we have developed book series in the growing areas of manufacturing, production, and materials engineering. The country's focus on the UN Sustainable Development Goals led to work closely with researchers in areas like water management, agriculture, zero waste, public health, and food sciences. So we are also part of many global initiatives, as well as work on bespoke offerings for researchers. We have created a copyrights and publishing ethics booklet for researchers in Africa. More and more readers are accessing our state-of-art open access content. OA makes sure that all barriers to access are removed, and researchers anywhere in the world can access the final version of record immediately and permanently. We also make high impact non-OA content from Africa free of cost in our directions and provocations page, which sees downloads from over 50 countries across the globe, with 60% downloads coming in from African researchers. Our STAR program is an initiative developed to provide authors and researchers with free access to articles from our leading journals, both international and regional ones. Over here, you can also see some of the stats from our open access journal. So we have in the last 2 or 3 years, over 7,000 open access articles published from Africa. 35% of the content that is coming in from Africa is actually published open access with TNF. And 1/3 of this content is published in underfunded areas such as humanities and social science. We also see 5 million plus downloads of our full open access content from Africa in the last year. And increasingly, we have more and more authorship in our open access books. So right now we have 49 full open access books from African authors. So we do stand by the statement, local partnerships, global networks, and through our various partnerships reach thousands of researchers and disseminate the content produced to a global audience. We also bring in experts from across the globe in the form of editors, reviewers, and in-house experts to work alongside the researchers. We have 3 major publishing partners. A media partner, The Conversation Africa, where hundreds of the articles that are published in TNF journals are converted into news pieces and blogs and sent across mainstream media. And we do have several consortia and gateway partners through our F1000 open access platform, which is called Open Research Africa. It is an open research publication platform built in partnership with the Science for Africa Foundation for African researchers to publish their findings. The mission is to share quality research from Africa with the world and enable rapid sharing, discovery, use and reuse of African research for the benefit of all. And we truly value the feedback from our trusted partners and strive to work to serving you better. So these are just some of the feedback that we've received from our partners, and we always feel motivated and want to work closer than ever with the researcher communities across the globe. So with that, I come to the end of my presentation. If you have questions, I'd love to take them after the next 2 presentations. Feel free to contact me via email or also find me on LinkedIn. You can also use this QR code here, just scan it, and you'll be able to sign up for updates, communication resources, and specific training and events that we do. I think it is of a lot of benefit to researchers here. So please do scan this code, and so we are able to reach out to you more easily. With that, I'd like to pass on the stage to Catherine, who is our next speaker, who's going to talk about impactful publications from Africa, as well as generally about the medical publication portfolio that we have with TNF. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm just going to share my screen now. Okay, hopefully you can all see that, and it should be in presenter mode. Firstly, thank you for welcoming me here to speak with you today. I'd just quickly like to let you know a bit about myself before we get started. At Taylor & Francis, I look after a portfolio of reproductive medicine journals. These are a mix of those published by Taylor & Francis, Dove Press, and in partnership with a number of international societies. I have more than 20 years experience in journals publishing, so hopefully that puts me in a good position to talk to you about how to get published today. My intention is that by the end of this presentation, you'll be well informed about preparing for and submitting your work for journal publication, and we'll also have awareness of things to consider to get you successfully published. I have quite a few slides, but won't discuss all in detail. I just wanted to include plenty of references for further information. During the session, we'll look at the broad range of opportunities to publish with Taylor & Francis, impact of research, how to choose a suitable journal, tips on writing your article, preparing for the submission process, and also look at what happens during peer review and potential outcomes. At Taylor and Francis, we publish cutting-edge research across a wide range of specialities in medicine and healthcare. You can explore the publications via this link to see highlighted journals within each speciality, as well as the full journal list for each speciality. We have a broad range of journals for you to choose from. These include a diverse portfolio of open access titles under Dove Medical Press, Taylor and Francis' own journals, journals published in partnership with societies, the Expert Collection, which is the world's largest series of review journals in research, development, and clinical medicine, the Expert Medicine Collection, where experts provide critical insights into the latest research, where the research should go and how it should get there. Impact is about looking at the effects of a piece of research has had. There are many different ways research could have an impact depending on the nature of the work. Some key areas of impacts are academic impact, so the impact research makes in academia, for example, advancing and developing understanding, methods and theory within the field or across disciplines. Cultural or societal, so the impact research can have on people, culture and society. Policy, so the impact of research on policy formulation, for example, using research as evidence to influence policy decisions. Economic impact, so impacting business and economic growth or development. Environmental, impacting the environment, and health, such as the development of new drugs or influencing change in medical practice. In the following slides, I wanted to quickly highlight how some recently published Taylor and Francis journal articles by African researchers have influenced the policies of organisations. Firstly, this article detailed here compared the performance of infrared thermometers with traditional oral electronic thermometers in measuring the body temperature of outpatients in a Nigerian hospital. The researchers found that infrared thermometers may be less accurate than traditional oral thermometers. The study went on to be cited in a paper on temporal thermometers by Canada's drug agency. In this review by researchers from Egypt, there was a focus on bacterial resistance, the history and spread of resistance, and how to detect resistance in infections. It also looked at possible options for treatment. This review is cited in a World Health Organization report. And thirdly, this study examined how the WHO's maternal near-miss approach can be used in Namibia and other middle-income countries to reduce deaths due to complications during pregnancy and childbirth. The study is cited in a WHO bulletin article on providing maternal health care in low-resource settings. Choosing a journal that is not a good fit for your work can slow down the publishing process significantly, so it's important to take this part of the process seriously and be thoughtful about your choice. It can be difficult to know where to begin when looking for a potential journal to publish in. It is important to research your publishing options, so consider open access, read, look at journals within your areas of interest, talk to colleagues about their experiences and recommendations, understand how your publications will be assessed, for example, the different types of peer review that may be applied. And once you've identified a potential list of journals, you can then look more closely at the aims and scope statements for each. So following on from the mention of the aims and scopes, it's really important. The aims and statements are designed to give librarians, students, researchers, and potential authors a clear understanding of what the journal is about and the type of research they are interested in publishing. Here's an example from the International Journal of Women's Health. It's a broad subject journal, but still has some requirements, which I've highlighted here. They relate to article types and topic coverage. So it's really important to read these because you'll find out what types of articles they will consider and the specific topics they're interested in. So you need to make sure that your research and article type is a good fit to the journal that you're planning to submit to. I also mentioned that you should research your publishing options as part of the process of choosing a journal, specifically relating to whether publishing your work open access is an option, as this may help to determine the most appropriate journal based on publishing type. Publishing open access essentially has two elements. Firstly, making content freely available, and secondly, making content reusable by a third party. There are two ways in which an author can publish open access with Taylor and Francis, either in a fully open access journal or in what we call a hybrid journal, and these are known as Open Select at Taylor and Francis. Fully open access journals publish all of their content open access. these journals are not funded by subscriptions. Instead, most charge an article publishing charge, or APC. In open select or hybrid journals, an author chooses to publish open access in a journal that is subscription funded. So much of the content in the journal is not freely accessible unless you or your institution has a subscription. But by an author choosing to make an article open access, it becomes freely available to all within that journal. And again, there'll be an article publishing charge to cover the publication costs for those. Establishing if you have funding available to support the publication of your research open access will help to determine which journal is the most appropriate to submit to. Open access can support you as an author to reach maximum potential with your research. With this in mind, I just wanted to quickly mention some of the enablers for supporting open access publication beyond the funders of the research here at Taylor & Francis. Transformative arrangements are made with Taylor & Francis at institution and country level and enable open access publishing. Conditions vary between the various arrangements in place, but typically relate to the corresponding author affiliation. I just wanted to draw your attention to the South African National Library and Information Consortium Agreement, which was announced earlier this year. This covers authors in South Africa, Namibia, and Botswana to publish open access in open select journals, and also to get a discount in fully open access Taylor & Francis medicine journals. I also wanted to note that researchers in countries defined by the World Bank as low-income economies, which set based on gross domestic product GDP, can apply for 100% APC waiver, whilst researchers in countries defined by the World Bank as lower middle-income economies can apply for a 50% discount. It is also possible to request a discretionary waiver during the manuscript submission process to Taylor & Francis medicine journals. These are considered on a case-by-case basis. And just wanted to highlight that at Taylor & Francis, we also have a handy journal suggestor tool to help you find the most suitable journal for your research. You simply paste your abstract in the box, and you'll get a list of suggested journals for you to explore further. Once you have identified a suitable journal, you're then ready to write your article in a way that will support successful publication. So I just listed some tips here for doing that. So firstly, check the journal's instructions for authors page. Some journals will have specific formatting requirements, whereas others will have a more flexible approach to initial submission structuring. So it's really important to adhere to journal specific requirements. If the journal does have specific requirements, be sure to follow these. Look at examples. Papers that have been published in the journal have achieved what you are setting out to do, so are great examples to look at. Keep your message focused. This is essential to convey how your research adds to the existing literature. Write first, edit later. And remember, getting feedback from others is an essential part of the editing process before submitting your article. Make it consistent and easy to follow, so be sure to use accessible language where possible. Editors, reviewers, and ultimately readers of the journal will appreciate this. And remember to cite your sources correctly, and also consider including a plain language summary. We'll look at these in a bit more detail in a moment. Going back to the point related to the instructions to authors, prior to writing your article, it's imperative that you read and follow the instructions for authors. Every journal will have these, which you can find on their journal website. These are the rule books for the journal. Under the instructions for authors, you'll find information that will guide you in writing your article, with information including the types of articles they accept and word limits for the articles, reporting guidelines, especially for medical titles, and information about how you should prepare your manuscript, so formatting, heading, reference style, and also information about data sharing policies, amongst plenty of other useful information. Some of the Taylor & Francis medicine journals now encourage the inclusion of a plain language summary, and for some journals, this is now a requirement. These are usually in the form of a couple of paragraphs that appear in the published article after the abstract. These are very useful, and they communicate the significance of scholarly and scientific research evidence to wide audiences in clear, jargon-free language. The audiences include practitioners, policymakers, the public, and/or professionals in nearby disciplines. They increase article reach, and they're freely available to read. So I've just included an example here, a plain language summary published in Expert Review of Clinical Immunology. Before you submit your article, do remember to have a final check to ensure everything is in order. If it isn't, it can cause delays to the process and even lead to the article being rejected. So remember to check the following. Have you included all necessary elements? Have you considered matters such as data sharing, authorship, and competing interests? Does your paper comply with journal requirements? Have you cited sources appropriately? Did you have another pair of eyes read through your article? And there's a useful page linked to here with a more comprehensive checklist to guide you. In most cases, when you do submit to a journal, you'll be submitting to an online submission system such as Scholar One or Editorial Manager. Most Taylor and Francis medicine journals use Submission Portal. This is an intuitive, easy-to-use submission site linked to the Scholar One and Editorial Manager peer review systems. The Submission Portal removes the need to have multiple system accounts because it provides one centralized system and dashboard that displays past and present submissions. As your manuscript will be subjected to the peer review process, I thought it would be useful just to look into this aspect in a bit more detail. Not only is it quality control, but peer review is also a form of collaboration between researchers. Peer reviewers will ask themselves the following questions. Is the article a good fit for the journal? Does it follow our guidelines? Is the research novel and making a contribution to the field? Is it sound science? Does the evidence support the findings? Does the author clearly communicate their findings? Are there any ethical issues? Peer review validates the research. Editors and peer reviewers, when accepting a paper, are giving it a stamp of approval, confirming that it is sound science. Keep in mind there are different models of peer review that journals use. The model for a specific Taylor and Francis medicine journal will be detailed in the instructions for authors. And I'll just put in this slide just to show the typical types of peer review that you may come across. Once your manuscript has been submitted, it will move through a number of stages. So I've just included this as an overview of a typical process. So once you've submitted your manuscript, the first thing it would go through would be the admin checks. So this is where it'll be checked to make sure it complies to those instructions for authors that you've read and checked against when you've been submitting. If it doesn't meet these requirements, then you most likely face a desk reject at that point or be asked for changes to be made. If it does pass the stage, then it will move into a cycle where it's assigned to an editor-in-chief or an associate editor who would invite reviewers, receive feedback, and communicate this back to you, and then lead to possible outcomes of revisions. So they could be minor or major, an accept decision or a reject, and you could see this go around several cycles. To help ensure you are successful in publishing your work, it is useful to understand some of the common reasons for articles to be rejected. I've listed some of them here. So we've got sent to the wrong journal, not a true journal article, not following the journal's specific author guidelines, poor regard of the journal's conventions, academic writing, poor style, grammar, punctuation or English, no contribution to the subject, libelous, unethical, rude or lacks objectivity. And here are some reasons for manuscripts being rejected more specific to medicine. So unsound, so this could relate to study sample size, statistical analysis, etc. Missing clinical trial approval. So to be published in a Taylor and Francis journal, all clinical trials must have been registered in a public repository, ideally at the beginning of the research process, so prior to participant recruitment. Trial registration numbers should be included in the abstract with full details in the methods section. Another reason for rejection is missing disclosures. These sometimes require grant numbers, and if there are no competing interests, they should also be declared. No clinical trial protocol documents is another reason for rejection. Non-adherence to reporting guidelines. So you'll see requirements for these detailed in instructions for authors. Non-compliance with ethics of experimentation and lack of informed consent. Remember, should you happen to get rejected, don't be disheartened, as it happens to everyone, but do remember to take the comments on board and review and revise your papers according to the new journal's requirement when you try again. When you do receive feedback on your manuscript via comments from reviewers, remember the following. Try not to take offence to any criticism of your article. You might like to take a few days before reading the review report so you can address the reviewer comments objectively. Make sure that you address all the reviewer comments and editor comments in your revisions. If you don't agree with the reviewer's comments, don't ignore it. Include an explanation of why you haven't made the change with your resubmission. Be assertive and persuasive rather than defensive or aggressive. When you do get accepted for publication, congratulations, but don't stop there. There's plenty you can still do to boost the impact of your research. So I've listed a few suggestions here. You use social media to promote your article, so include hashtags and tagging your co-authors to increase exposure. Join an academic research sharing network, so you can add your article to your profile on these platforms. Create a Google Scholar profile. It's a popular search engine for finding scholarly literature, so adding your articles can drive readership. Write a blog post to drive the impact of your work. Create a video abstract. So these are increasingly popular ways to get people to engage with your research, and some journals at Taylor & Francis, the medicine portfolio, allow you to publish these alongside your abstract. Share your ePrint, so you'll get this link when you publish in a subscription-based journal. Present your paper at conference. This will raise awareness of your work. You can include your article in your email signature. This is a quick and easy way to tell people you have published your work, and authors can create banners via self-service form at Taylor & Francis. So I've just included an example of a typical banner that you could generate using this here on this slide. And then also remember to update your web pages. So you're alerting people browsing your institutional and departmental websites to your latest publications. Before I end, I would just like to highlight our author resources site. So I've got the web link here at the bottom, and also included a QR code. So if you do want to scan that, please do. I'll also happy to make my slides available after, so you can make use of all the links I've included. This site, detailed here, it offers plenty of support to authors. You'll find a lot of the links that I've included in this presentation here as sources of extra information, and also plenty of other useful resources that will help you in the journey. So that's all from me. So thank you very much for listening. And I'm now going to hand over to my colleague, Koromoto, to talk a bit more about publishing ethics and integrity.
Thank you so much.
Right. Thank you, Koromoto. Before you come in, sorry, I want to announce that if you want to put a question in there, you can either put it in the chat box and also put it in the Q&A session, so we can have your questions all arranged for the TNF team. So Koromoto, you can go.
Hi, thank you so much. I'll just share my screen. Catherine, I think you need to stop sharing your screen before I can do that. There we go, perfect. Let me just put this on presentation mode. Please let me know if you're seeing the correct screen on presentation mode, or if there's any problems. If I hear nothing, I will presume there are no problems. Thanks, Catherine. So it's a pleasure to be here, and I am extremely grateful for all of your time. We really appreciate these opportunities to exchange with individuals such as yourselves, to be able to answer your questions and talk to you about what we are doing as a publisher to ensure that we uphold publication ethics, as well as what you can do as researchers. As it was mentioned, my name is Koro, and I am a research integrity manager within the publication ethics and integrity team at Taylor & Francis. Before this role, I had a similar role at another publisher, and before that, I had a career in research. My presentation today will cover the following areas: an overview of what publication ethics means and the different stakeholders involved, current trends and developments in research integrity, and why this has become a topic that, in my opinion, thankfully, there is an ever-increasing interest in, what our responsibilities are as a publisher with regards to research integrity, and the work that we do to ensure that we publish the best possible research, and finally, some tips on how you can ensure that you avoid any issues in your publications. So what is research integrity? It's important to understand when considering research integrity that it relates to all academic disciplines and all sectors where research is carried out. It is therefore relevant to all authors and researchers as well as their institutions. It is not about a specific part of the research, but rather its entire life cycle. It's important for research integrity to be considered from the very beginning of an idea being developed until your manuscript is published and disseminated. Research integrity is about honesty, transparency, accountability, respect, and rigor. Researchers and research outputs should be as clear as possible about what they have done, how they have done it, the results obtained, and who did what. They should work to the highest standards of their discipline and follow all relevant guidelines. Besides researchers, their institutions also play an essential role in overseeing research integrity by, for example, providing guidance and granting relevant approvals. Similarly, policymakers are charged with creating higher level guidelines. Although often used together, publishing ethics and research integrity are slightly different. Publishing ethics refers to the scholarly records themselves. It's about ensuring that the scholarly records are accurate, trustworthy, and that research integrity was followed in the work that led up to that publication. It's therefore essential that each piece of research is as thorough and as ethical as possible, because of the fact that future research is informed by existing publications. Besides publishers and, of course, authors, there are also a number of sector-wide organizations who are involved in ensuring that publication ethics are involved. A particular one that I'll highlight is the Committee on Publication Ethics. They're a particularly important body and work towards ensuring that most journals that are their members adhere to the relevant standards. Research integrity has become something that's increasingly talked about. From my perspective, and I think the perspective of anybody who is interested in the research ecosystem and the dissemination of its outputs, this can only be considered a good thing, as it is only through ensuring that we sustain research integrity and publishing ethics that the work that is produced by academics can have the most impact. It's essential that when your work is disseminated after publication, it's considered trustworthy. The data shown here is from a recent publication by our Director of Publication Ethics and Integrity, Dr. Sabine Alam. And what it shows is that the assessment of our internal data demonstrates that research integrity and publication ethics concerns are, from what we see, becoming increasingly complex, but also increasing in number. As with anything that we do, concerns have also developed. Like research itself, they're evolving. In part, this is because of technological developments and the impact that this can have on how these problems arise. For example, something which has become increasingly prevalent in some medical publications is issues of image manipulation. Now, technology plays a key role in this, in that how it is possible to do that now is very different to what it was in the past. The reason why we see an increased number of problems, though, also relates to changes that there have been within the research ecosystem itself. We know that there is an ever-increasing amount of competition and pressure to publish. And unfortunately, this does result in some taking shortcuts in order to achieve results. The other reason why we see more complex issues and why we identify more concerns, though, is also because we have changed the ways that we work. We have an ever-growing dedicated team that deals with these problems. And to a great extent, we are researching the problems themselves in order to find solutions. Now, I mentioned the fact that some take shortcuts in order to achieve results. However, it is imperative to remember that not all concerns equal intentionality. This is something that I feel particularly strongly about, and that is that we need to normalize the fact that problems exist. We need to create an environment whereby honest mistakes are something that people do feel comfortable coming forward with in order for publications to be corrected. In everything that we do, mistakes happen, and it is not helpful to create a context where those mistakes are not addressed, and that can have extended repercussions and a knock-on effect on others. Although those are the problems that we have seen within Taylor and Francis, it is not something that is any different at any other publisher. We know and are aware that there are sector-wide trends and that the majority of publishers are seeing the same things. Something that has received an increased amount of attention, especially in the last couple of years, is the issue of paper mills, or sometimes as it's referred to, authorship for sale. This is something that we not only all need to be aware of, but that we all need to be concerned about. Work that is sold by these organizations is